After a long day of shopping, they decided to unwind in their favorite cozy cafe. After a long time, as Arya returned from Italy, settling into a corner booth with steaming cups of coffee in hand, Wine and Arya had been best friends since childhood, always there for each other through thick and thin. As they sipped their drinks and caught up on each other's lives, Arya couldn't help but notice the faraway look in Vine's eyes. "What's on your mind, Vine?" she asked, setting her cup down. Vine hesitated for a moment before finally deciding to confide in her best friend. I have been thinking a lot about my marriage, she admitted, twirling a lock of hair nervously. "You know about Jungkook, right?" she asked as Arya raised an eyebrow. "Yes, I know. It was an arranged marriage, wasn't it?" Arya said as Vine nodded, her expression troubled. "It was," she confirmed, "and I am still afraid of him, Arya. He is so cold and distant. We haven't even kissed each other, let alone had a proper conversation in the past month," she said while Arya studied Vine for a moment before a mischievous glint appeared in her eyes. "You loved him, don't you?" she asked, while Vian noted a blush appeared on her cheeks. "Well, Vian, maybe it's time for you to take the first step in your marriage," she suggested with a teasing smile. "You should do something to get closer to Jungkook." Vian's eyes widened in alarm. "But what if he scolds me or pushes me away?" she protested. "I don't think I can handle that. I will be crying in some corner of that huge mansion," she said, looking at Arya with surprised eyes, while Arya rolled her eyes playfully. "Oh, come on, Ryan. You can't let fear hold you back forever," she stated. "You need to show Jungkook that you care about him and want to make things work between you two." Ryan sighed, knowing that Arya was right. "I guess you are right," she conceded. "But what should I do, Arya? I have no experience in matters like this," she asked sadly as Arya grinned, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Well, first of all, you should start by initiating a conversation with him. Maybe ask him about his day or his interests," she suggested. "And hey, who knows, you might even get a smile out of him." Wine chuckled at Arya's enthusiasm. "I highly doubt that, but I will give it a try," she said. "Thanks for the advice, Arya. I don't know what I will do without you." She passed her a smile as Arya waved off her gratitude with a smile. "Hey, that's what best friends are for, right?" she said. "Now go on, be brave and take that first step towards your happily ever after with Jungkook." She winked at Vine, made her blush. With a final sip of her coffee, Vine squared shouldered and made up her mind she was going to do whatever it took to bridge the gap between her and Jungkook, even if it meant stepping out of her comfort zone, as she was in love with him since they got engaged, and now she wants their marriage will work. As they left the cafe, Arya couldn't resist teasing Vine about her upcoming mission. "So, when are you planning to make your move, Miss Innocent?" she teased, nudging Vine playfully while Vine rolled her eyes at Arya's antics but couldn't help but laugh. "Oh, shut up, Arya. I will make my move when the time is right," she replied while laughing. All right, best of luck, darling," she said, and with that, Vine and Arya headed out into the bustling city, the two bulky bodyguards following them as a sign for her safety, their laughter ringing out into the night, a sense of adventure and excitement bubbling up between them. After Arya told Vine to make move, she tried to talk with Jungkook asking about his day and all, but it felt like throwing a stone in the water because Jungkook just simply answered her and nothing more. Maybe he assumed her nervousness. Sure, they exchanged words when necessary, but nothing more, like Arya said before. Maybe you even get a smile out of him. The man was both beautiful and terrifying, and his exotic nature made him nearly impossible to read. But tonight something was different. Jungkook had informed her that they are going to his parents' house for a casual dinner. As they invited them, he told her that Minji, his sister, is also coming. Wine dressed carefully, choosing a soft pastel dress that made her feel comfortable yet polished. She was trying to put aside her nervousness, hoping that a little time with his family might help her understand Jungkook more. Upon arriving, they were greeted by his mother, who had a warm smile on her face, and his father, a towering figure whose gaze softened as soon as he saw his son and daughter-in-law. Jungkook's younger sister Minji was there too, along with her husband and their 2-year-old son. The dinner table was set with elegant dishes, and the atmosphere felt unexpectedly inviting. Wan tried to relax, chatting with Jungkook's parent about random things, but her mind kept drifting back to Jungkook. He was sitting across from her, looking every bit a Mafia hair sharp and immaculate. He wasn't saying much, but there was a soft quality to his eyes whenever he looked at her that made her heart flutter, though she couldn't quite place it. If she's trying, I'm ready to give her all access in my life and on myself too. I will make ways so she could walk easily towards me without caring and fearing. You just have to walk, and I'm ready to embrace you, Ryan. He thought, looking at her, and his lips slightly curled up into a faint smile when she averted her gaze as their eyes met. As dinner ended and everyone moved to the living room, the air was lighter, filled with the ease banter of family. Minji, who had been unusually quiet throughout the meal, suddenly leaned in with a mischievous grin. How about a game? Minji suggested, her eyes glinting with excitement. Truth and dare. It's been ages since we played. Vine's stomach churned. At the mention of the game, she had played Truth and Dare as a child, but the stakes felt much higher now, especially when it came to Jungkook. I don't mind, he said, who had been lounging on the couch with a glass of whiskey in hand. Gave a nonchalant shrug, but there was a flicker of curiosity in his eyes while Vine opened her mouth to protest, but Minji was already holding up her hands in mock surrender. Oh, come on, we are all family here. It will be fun, she urged as Vine glanced at Jungkook, who was staring at his sister with that same unreadable expression. He didn't seem bothered by the idea, so Vine reluctantly agreed, feeling like there was no escape. Minji always had a way of getting what she wanted. They all gathered in the living room, seated comfortably on the sofas. Minji's son was already giggling in his playpen, oblivious to the grown up conversation. The game began innocently enough with a few truths and light hearted dares, but when the time came for Minji's turn, the air shifted. All right, Ryan, I have the perfect dare for you, she said as she turned to Ryan, her eyes gleaming with playful mischief and her voice dripping with excitement, while Ryan swallowed nervously, her gaze darting to Jungkook, who was leaning back against the couch with an amused look on his face. His eyes locked onto hers, and for a split second she thought she saw something that resembled warmth there, but she quickly shook it off. You have to sit on Jungkook's lap, she said, a mischievous glint in her eyes, and whispered something in his ear. She whispered the last part in Vine's ear that made Vine's eyes widen. What? Her face flushed deep red, and she opened her mouth to protest, but the word got stuck in her throat. Minji had always been bold, but this was something unexpected. Minji, you can't be serious, she exclaimed in surprise, but Minji's smile only widened. Oh, I am. Go ahead, Vian. It will be fun. It's just a game. She goosed, clearly enjoying every second of Vian's discomfort. Don't be shy, honey. If you want, we will close our eyes, she said playfully. That made everyone laugh, but Vian's cheeks turned red in embarrassment. You have to do it, she said, her voice a playful whisper as she leaned in from beside the plush couch towards Ryan. It's the perfect chance to break the ice with your husband. He won't bite, at least not hard, she smiled, while Ryan shifted uncomfortably, her heart racing as she glanced towards Jungkook. His piercing eyes were fixed on his phone as he let Minji and Ryan decide whether to complete the dare or not, his expression unreadable. The man was the epitome of power, danger, and mystery. His mere presence had made her nervous from day one, and now Minji was suggesting. She sat on his lap and whispered something in his ear. Her hands raised in her lap as she began to imagine the worst. But he's scary, Minji, she protested, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I can. Minji cut her off, her grin wide and mischievous. Come on, it's just a harmless dare, and besides, you are his wife. He might even enjoy it, she whispered with a grin. But we have never even kissed, Wine muttered, her voice sting with frustration. I don't know what to do, she whispered yell as Minji chuckled, nudging Wine's arm. Exactly, that's why this dare will be perfect. You are both still strangers, but this will change things. She whispered and then leaned back on her couch, not letting Ryan to continue her argue, while Ryan's mind drifted back towards Arya's and her previous conversation. Now the time has come, I can do it. Her inner voice said, but it didn't lessen her nervousness. Minji knew they both were still not get along with each other, and she wanted to help them because she knew no one going to make first move. Jungkook, ever the silent observer, didn't say a word, though his expression had shifted slightly. He seemed intrigued. His posture remained relaxed, but his eyes were focused on Wine. He was waiting. Wine hesitated. Her mind screamed for her to refuse, but Minji's expectant gaze and the weight of the situation left her with no choice but to follow through. The idea of sitting on Jungkook's lap was terrifying, but what made it worse was the thought of having to whisper something romantic in his ear. Her heart pounded and her palms were suddenly sweaty. Swallowing her nerves, Vine stood and slowly walked towards him. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached the edge of the couch. Jungkook's eyes met hers, and for the first time, he offered her a small, knowing smile, as if he could sense her discomfort. You don't have to do this, you know, he said softly, his deep voice unexpectedly reassuring as Ryan blinked, surprised by his words. He was giving her an out. For a brief moment, she considered backing out, but then Minji's voice rang out. Don't let him off the hook, Ryan. It's just for fun. With a resigned sign, Ryan finally sat down on Jungkook's lap, her cheeks burning as she awkwardly adjusted herself. The room fell silent, all eyes on them. She could feel Jungkook's warm breath, the tension building in the air, but he remained surprisingly still. Her face burned brighter than ever as the sudden closeness made her heart race. Her heart instinctively gripped the fabric of his jacket as she tried not to think about how his solid chest was inches away from hers. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Vi's breath was shallow, unsure of what to do next. The dare was supposed to be harmless, but now it felt like everything in the room was magnified. The quiet hum of the air conditioning, the soft rustling of fabric, and most of all, Jungkook. Well, what did Minji want you to do? What did she say in your ear? Finally, Jungkook broke the silence, his voice soft but with a teasing edge, as Vine's face flushed even more, and she scrambled for words. She said to whisper something in your ear. She muttered, barely making eye contact with Jungkook raised an eyebrow, his amusement evident. Something in my ear, huh? Something like what? He asked, his voice a soft whisper while Vine's mouth went dry. She had no idea what to say. Her heart thudded against her chest. I don't know. She stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. You do, wifey, he said, while Vian's heart skipped a beat. Minji dared me to whisper something in your ear, she muttered, her face flushing, while Jungkook leaned back, his lip curling into a faint smirk. A dare, huh? Are you sure this is a good idea? His eyes were now playful, the teasing glint unmistakable, and that was the moment Vian wanted to be disappeared. She stammered, feeling like a fish out of water. When she suddenly realized how close they were, she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Jungkook chuckled softly. Well, if it's a dare, go ahead, he murmured as he leaned closer. Vian to try stood up, but he held her waist. His hold was firm but gentle. Vian's heart raced as she leaned in slightly, unsure of what to say. She couldn't just make something up. This was Jungkook, her husband, the man who intimidated her every day, but then something in her changed. She felt his steady breath against her skin, and despite the nerves, something stirred inside her. She wanted to break down the walls between them. She wanted this awkwardness to disappear. She wanted him to know her feelings for him, and maybe he will say he feel the same for her. I never imagined this marriage will be easy, but I never imagined I will feel this way either. Taking a deep breath, Van whispered, her voice soft but steady. I love you, Jungkook. She whispered with a shy smile. It wasn't dirty but romantic as she thought to start with confessing while Jungkook's breath hitched, though his expression remained calm. His eyes met hers, a flicker of something deep and undeniable passing through them. Oh, look at you two. You are so cute when you are shy. Minji, unable to keep her composure, burst into laughter. Wan pulled back slightly, feeling both relieved and embarrassed. Jungkook's gaze, those remained intense, but it was no longer cold. He placed his hand gently on her waist, his fingers just grazing her skin, and she could feel the warmth of his touch, the subtle strength in his finger. Thanks for the whisper, he said quietly, his voice so soft that only she could hear it. It means more than you think, love. He said, and Maya looked at him surprised, her eyes twinkling with happiness as she realized he called her love. Her cheeks a hue of bright red, and butterflies start dancing in her stomach. For a moment, it felt like time stopped. Ryan didn't know why she felt lighter, as if something had shifted between them, but it had. There was an unspoken understanding in that small gesture. Jungkook wasn't just the mafia boss, the man who ran a criminal empire. He was also someone capable of being vulnerable, even if he didn't show it often. Ryan shifted beside Jungkook on the couch, and the game continued after that. But for Ryan, the dare was more than just a silly moment. It was a step forward. It was about the little moments, the shared glances, and the quiet words that built something unexpected between her and Jungkook. Come on, tell me what will you whisper if we were alone? I'm just too curious to know. He murmured as he gently held her hand, made Ryan's mind spin. She tried to open her mouth to say something but stopped as she couldn't able to make words, her eyes shifting on their hands and him, while a smirk clustered on his lips. I don't know, I mean I didn't think anything as it was a sudden and shocking tear Minji gave. She said while Jungkook nodded in understanding, gazing towards their family who was busy in bickering and laughing as Minji's son was stumbling on his little feet trying to walk. Well, I think we should head back to our home and you will think about it on the way. But if I were in your place, don't you want to know what might I whispered in your ear? He said while smirking mischievously made Vine's heart race. Her cheeks turned red. I forgot about whispering. Let's go home and I will tell you the proper way. Ground seeing her blushing before saying this, while Vine looked at him with wide eyes as she realized what he meant. You will be hyping and encouraging me up later, so don't look at me like that, wifey. He said while making me Vine to look down with red cheeks, as she felt she was going to die with the amount of butterflies only his talk gave her.